Welcome to the Jeremiah Show. It's late morning in Freedom, Maine. The temperature is 47 degrees. There is a blanket of clouds in the sky that softly covers the bright autumn leaves and the old mill. And this is reason enough to stay inside, where it's warm by the fire and the delicious smells of comforting food are coming from the lost kitchen. This is the place where Erin once felt lost, but has now found her home. It is an environment of her making, and along with her husband, Michael Dutton, and the team at the Lost Kitchen, they have created a sanctuary of support for her craft. It is her tribute to finer, simpler living. It is proof that she is right where she needs to be. It feels like love. It feels like home. When she was young, the small town felt small and couldn't hold her. The big, wide world beckoned. It called for her to step in, to come out and explore. And she listened to the call. After all, she has the spirit of a child, a curiosity and needs to immerse herself into the world, to discover new things, to interact, to taste, to touch, soak it all in, and see for herself. So why wouldn't she go and explore the big wide world? And of course she did. But eventually all roads lead home. There's a quote by Michael Crichton that I like from his book, Travels. It goes like this. Often I feel I go to some distant region of the world to be reminded of who I really am. And stripped of your ordinary surroundings, you are forced into direct experience. Such direct experience inevitably makes you aware of who is having the experience. My special guest today is Erin French. She's a visionary, a restaurateur, and a self-taught cook deeply respected by her peers and the industry, and loved by so many, drawn in by her approach to life, her cooking, and her personal journey. Welcome, Erin.
Hi, Jeremiah. Thanks for having me.
It's so nice to see you and to be able to talk to you. Um, I signed up for, I did a lot of online looking around and I signed up for your newsletter. And within a couple of days, I got the newsletter and it was in true Erin French fashion, so beautifully word crafted. And you say, it's all I can do to let the colors of the season pile up in my mind. And I love that image of the seasons and experiences from each season piling up in your mind like leaves.
Yeah.
So I just, you have a really great way with words.
Well, well, I was thinking about it in this way of like you have to stockpile it because you're right. Because you said it's 47 degrees here in Maine. Why would you go
I
outside?
checked the
And
temperature. That's how I know.
yeah. Well, already those leaves I was talking about a couple of weeks ago are gone. So that color is gone and that feeling
Oh,
won't be gone until next year. So to kind of get through the seasons up here, you have to stockpile and hold on, and it's like taking your vitamins and holding on to it so you can get through what's ahead.
mm-hmm. What is ahead? The long winter? Is
A
it?
long winter, but you'll be all the gray days right now, just gray, and kind of there's no color, and you're waiting for the snow because then it's magical, and then so it's basically November and March are the times that you don't want to come to Maine.
But busy times, I'm sure, for you, especially cooking and feeding friends and family and taking time to take care of your family, I imagine.
There's no such thing as a
Yeah.
not busy time around here.
Yeah.
So there's always something to be done, always something that we're cooking up in the kitchen.
Well, aside from I got that there are still leaves on the trees wrong, did I describe freedom a little bit? Did I describe did I hit anything else right? Aside
You
from that,
nailed it. You
I
nailed
know
it.
it's 47 degrees. Like I said, I looked up the temperature before we got on to see what it was like out there. How would you describe Main Street freedom? I mean, bring it to life in the listeners' minds. Like what it's show us through your eyes what's so special about your town.
I think the thing that I find most special about this little town of Freedom is that it is a bit unchanged, which I think is hard to come by these days. I grew up here in Freedom, and it's a population of 719. And I think currently, right now, we might be at like 721. So we haven't changed
Ooh,
that much.
population
And
boom.
yeah, population boom. But the houses are unchanged, the street is unchanged, and even the road that I grew up on has the same potholes that were there when I was growing up as a kid. Like there isn't a lot that has changed, which I think is something that I find sweet about this little town. There's a
And
quietness
how,
to it, and I think we crave
yeah.
that being here too. I mean, you definitely have to crave quiet to spend your full time in freedom.
Do you find that you crave, with the busy life that you have, do you look for those quiet times and those moments? Are you happy that you're in a town that you can think and that you can just
Yeah,
really be?
I I think about that actually a lot because it does provide me with this space to kind of think and breathe, and I can step outside my front door and it doesn't feel frenetic or crazy. And I think about like many years ago, I had a restaurant that was in town. It was like 20 minutes from here, but still it was like downtown and on the street. And it was a constant a buzz. And that was a small town. But out here, it's like there's peace and quiet. I mean, I'm sitting at the mill right now, and there's not a soul, not even a car driving by. And just the leaves on the ground and the falls are gently falling, and there's something kind of magical about that you can have this breathing room in the middle of
Yeah.
nowhere.
And I imagine it helps you creatively and to look at your environment that you and Michael have created there and built there, and really, you know, look around, look where you want to improve and work on it. And
Oh gosh, don't get us started. There's so much to improve and work on. Michael has become like a full-time caretaker around here with raking leaves and fixing dams, and there are certain things that come along with it too. We say if you want to work every day in your life, buy an old farmhouse. You'll be
and
working every
and
day of your life,
throw a
and it'll
restaurant on
never be
top of
done.
that.
Yeah, and it'll never be done.
It's always something to do, but it keeps you active, right? Keeps you
Oh yeah.
alive. When you were a child, you mentioned the potholes in your road. I think it was even in one of your episodes, if I remember right, where you talked about here's my house, that I grew up in, and there was like a dirt road, if I
Hmm.
remember correctly, and the potholes you just brought up again, which made me think. When I grew up, we lived in a little cabin up in Idaho, and there was a dirt road and the potholes, and I had to walk down this dirt road just like the old grandpa stories to the school bus. And the potholes in the winter were so cool because they would fill up with ice, and you'd jump through them and smash break the ice.
Yeah.
What were you like as a child? Did you have a big imagination? Were you left alone? Was it like remote? And did you have to find things to do to entertain yourself?
Yeah. Um, I mean, growing up in a tiny town, you definitely have to self entertain, especially when you have two parents who were very busy. My dad was running his restaurant at the time. So now I understand what those long work days look like. So he was gone for 17, 18 hours a day. And so there was a lot of just exploration on the little farm that we grew up on, and a lot we were left to our own devices frequently. And so like playing in the back fields and in the barn and the hayloft, and um, picking things that we would find and foraging, which is probably how I got into my love of that, and
Yeah.
being in the garden, and it just kind of a lot of like make believe world out in the woods, which kind of tracks now when I think about the way my life has gone, and my affection for just the garden and for the forest
Mhm.
and all of those things, and how I brought those bits of my childhood into what I do now creatively for a living.
Would you play did you pretend that you were cooking after you foraged? Any mud pies or anything like that?
All the time. And we used to play restaurant nonstop at our house,
Oh,
which
really? Did you?
is funny to me. I mean, my mom actually found this collection of menus that I had written as a kid, and I would play the cook, and my sister would be the waitress. And
That's
I would
great.
have these different theme nights about like whether it was an Italian night or, there was a diner night and we were having hot dogs. And obviously, my cooking skills were pretty minimal. But it was hilarious to see that was happening all those years ago, that I was like quietly finding my way in the garden, in the
Mhm.
forest, in the kitchen, and then it was right there in front of me, like kind of the entire time.
Yeah, your a life was starting to grow within you and around you, and ideas and for your future vision. It sounds
Yeah.
like
I find it so funny that sometimes people don't pay attention to those little things. And now I can look back and see that, because we like, as we're becoming adults, we're like, I don't know, what am I supposed to do? And I struggled for so long questioning like what I should be doing. And then it's like kind of right there in front of me the whole time.
was
And I think
that.
we all probably have that, you know?
Yeah, you got to listen to your inner voice, I guess, a little bit more in the path that you're on, what interests you.
The little things, yeah.
Yeah, but you've created not only a world destination restaurant, but you've created also I think a feeling and a lifestyle. It's something that when it comes across on television and your travels and you're following your path as you develop the restaurant and your various brands with the shop and all those things. It feels like a bigger calling, a bigger life, and really a way of living that
Yeah.
is very desirable, even from the small town. How many small towns still really exist the way that freedom does where you live? How are where traditions are still alive, family traditions and the seasons and the holidays. I think your whole everything you're building is nostalgic in a way and very attractive to
Mhm.
fans. The lifestyle, does it feel that way to you, or does
Yeah.
it feel like work?
No, it's true. And that part was really accidental. I really, I didn't know what I was doing in that moment. I knew that I was falling back on cooking because I grew up in a family that had a restaurant. And so I was learning how to cook at a very young age. And as I got older and was like searching for my purpose and what I was supposed to do for a living, it was food and it was becoming food. And I was focusing on the food, but what I wasn't aware of until recently, as I've started to try to dissect kind of what happened here at the Lost Kitchen, is that I was creating a feeling, and that part was accidental. I was using food to call people to the table, but I was using the table as my place to make them feel something. And it wasn't just the food that I was putting on the table, it was the candles that I was putting on the table, it was the music that I was surrounding the table with, it was the feeling of the space, it was all of the little details, from the dishes I was choosing to the napkins and the mismatched silverware. And I was watching people respond to this experience and this feeling that I was accidentally making, because I thought that to be successful as a cook, you just have to make really good food. And if anything, one of the biggest lessons I've learned is that's not necessarily the case. You can make the most incredible food, but if you're serving it in an environment that doesn't feel warm and loving and inviting, you're never going to feel all that love in that dish. It has to be this all encompassing thing. So, um,
So
yeah, the
many
the sort of the
details.
lifestyle. Yeah, and it is, and like gathering is, part of life and it's part of this
Mm.
style. And So I've accidentally discovered that I'm a better hostess than I am a cook. I'm a pretty damn good cook, but I'm a really good hostess.
Those are ingredients. I mean, there's so many more ingredients, as you said, to just cooking, right? I mean, it's those intentional, details that you're thinking about it all the way from the beginning of the door, you know, through the entire experience. And that takes a lot of time and love. And you have to, it sounds like you have to almost feel the candle. This feels like who I am and what
Yeah,
I'm trying to show my guests. This
yeah.
plate, the
It's
texture.
storytelling in a way.
Yeah.
It's you're doing that, and it's food, and it's edible, and at the end of that dinner, there'll be hopefully an empty, licked clean plate, and that'll be all that's left. But
You encourage
the
licking
storytelling is
plates.
powerful. Oh, sure, why not? I've seen it
No,
happen once in this dining room, and I was like, oh, that is an ultimate compliment.
that is a compliment. Tell me about what's your dad's name?
My dad's name, Jeff.
Jeff.
Goes
And
by
he
Jeff.
had
Yeah,
a diner that you grew up
yeah,
in?
yeah. So when I was 5 years old, my dad decided it would be a great idea to get into the restaurant business. Ha ha. I don't think he realized how much time of a time suck it was going to be, but it was definitely a place where I could see, if I think back, on his excitement of like, oh gosh, I finally found something that I can pour myself into
Mhm.
and use my hands, and it's an American dream. Have your own small business and create
Yeah.
something from scratch, and he had that. Then you find out you bought a restaurant and you've become, anchored to this business
Yeah.
for all of your days. But yeah, that's really where I think all of the love of cooking really started, was the day that he bought that diner. My life changed
Yeah.
dramatically.
Were you excited? How old were you at that time?
I was 5,
5.
and
So it's
I
exciting.
remember, oh gosh, it was the
A
most
restaurant is so
exciting.
exciting as a
As a
kid.
5 year old, like,
Yeah.
there was a dairy bar, there were friolaters, there was like a soda fountain that you just pull the lever, and all you could drink
Milkshakes.
soda. So milkshakes, it was at the beginning, it was a dream come true. I think for all of us, it was like, this is incredible.
Mhm.
You put it in order, and then my grandfather would be there and like, what do you want for breakfast? Pancakes. Okay. Or French toast, or how do you want your eggs? You want bacon, you want sausage? It was just,
Sit at the
it felt like,
counter.
yeah, it
Yeah.
was the most incredible thing at the beginning, until we all realized how much work it was going to take, and how much time we weren't going to get to have with our dad growing up. So um, it had
Yeah,
its
it
good,
never
it had
stops.
its
It's
bad.
7. Yeah. It never stops. It's always there and it's always calling. And there's always something that it needs, the restaurant. You've got to feed it as well
Oh
as your
yeah.
guests. So your father, would you say your father inspired the pursuit of this culinary life that you've built?
Um, Strangely, yes. I never would have thought that. And to be honest, when we got into the restaurant business, and as time went on, and I started to, my love for the restaurant started to fade, as my father's did, as we all realized the challenges of actually, being a restaurant family, and the sacrifices that had to be made by all of us. I grew to resent it terribly. And I was angry for the time that it took away from my dad. I was angry that it made him angry, that when he did have time off, he was a stressed out mess. Um, and if anything, it's like I felt like the restaurant was my trap of like keeping me from everything, all of the possibilities that I dreamed might be out there. It was like, I want nothing to do with food. Get me out of this business. I don't want to be in the restaurant business. I want to run as far away as I possibly can from this little town, from this little diner. No, thank you. And then,
How
I
did he
kept,
take that?
oh, he was offended because he took it as a slight upon him. He saw that he had invested all of his life and he had worked this hard to put meals on the table for all of us and to make a living. And to him, that was a great amount of disrespect. But I kept finding that I couldn't escape the restaurant, and I kept finding myself back there and chipping in and helping out. And there were moments that I loved, that I was finding my own creativity to be able to mess around in the kitchen and make something that felt completely yours and watch people enjoy it. And I'd find great joy in that. And so it was my reluctant relationship with food that I finally gave in later in life when I was smart enough to let go
Yeah.
and say, no, this is pretty incredible and it's exactly where you need to be. And so all that resentment turned into I grew and I learned and I understood that it had brought me to exactly where I was supposed to be. And so it
Mhm.
really was my strained relationship with my father in that diner that gave me this great gift that is now mine.
Do you still feel that conflict at times with your own restaurant now that you're a restaurant, that you own your own business
Oh
and you
yeah.
own, yeah.
Oh yeah. I
How
have
do you deal
moments
with that?
when
Does it
I
make you more
it's
inspired in some way? Does it drive you, or do you feel like you need to retreat and
it's a mix. I mean, there are moments when I could tell you, you get to the middle of August and you're just so tired because you've just been grinding and, service days, you're working 17, 18 hours straight and you don't eat and you're barely sleeping. And then you're like, this place, I'm just tethered to it and it's running my life. And I feel like I'm just like this machine. And then you're in the middle of service and you're in the dining room and you have these people that are sitting at your table that are having this most incredible time and you can see the joy on their face and you're like, I have the best job in the world. Like,
yeah.
it warms my heart and I remind myself that it's like, this is why you do it. You do all that hard work and then the payoff is witnessing these moments that you're creating for people and just this joy in their eyes and in
Yeah.
their hearts and in their stomachs, and you created that for them, and that's a memory that's going to last a long time. And that to me is just this ultimate feeling. So I'd have to say, if you were in the restaurant business and you loved every single moment of every single day, there's something that completely cannot be right with you. You have to like, it's a relationship,
Yeah.
and you have
It's a
your good
love
days and
hate.
it's a love hate, but at the end of the day it always ends on love. But man, there are days that are really challenging, even in
Yeah.
this dreamy restaurant that we built. It still has its challenges, of course.
How was this past season for you, for the business? Was it good? Is it difficult? Has it changed? It feels like the business has changed to me a little bit since COVID, and so so many struggles, extra additional struggles, but even the guests feel different. The
Hmm.
business feels different. But how was it for you for the Lost Kitchen?
We really, I have to say, came off of, I think, probably the best season that we've ever had here. And I and
Right.
I feel so fortunate that I get to say that after every season we've had, it feels like it's the best. So it's a good sign because it tells me that we're still growing as a team. We're still caring as much. And to be this was our 11th season at the Lost Kitchen. And that feels like
Congratulations.
a crazy thing to say. I mean,
A
you
huge
think about
accomplishment.
success rates of restaurants, to survive a year is huge. To survive 5 years, wow, incredible. To be here over 10 years later, still loving it, still doing this, and still putting just as much heart, if not more than ever, out into this dining room and on those plates with a team beside me who cares just as deeply as I do. It feels like near impossible, but we're doing it. We're doing it and we're loving it.
That's really great to hear, and congratulations. That really is a huge
Thank you.
accomplishment in the business. And um, so going back to when you first left Freedom, and you felt you were feeling the pressure of the restaurant, and you wanted anything but that. You wanted to go out and into the world and discover, I guess, what you were meant to do. Uh, how old were you when you left home? Just so I'm just putting it in
I
perspective.
Yeah, I was 18 and I got out of here as quick and fast as I could as soon as I graduated high
Do you have a
school.
fast car?
And no, I didn't, well, kind of. I got as fast as I could, and I moved to Boston, and I was going to Northeastern University. And for me, that was huge, like to get away from this tiny town and be in this, what to me was a huge city, was a big accomplishment because to be a kid growing up here and to get the heck out of here, um, the rates are pretty slim. We'd always be like, if someone like made it out, like she made it, like she got out, he got out. Like, did you hear that he moved to New York? Or oh my gosh, did you know that she went to Los Angeles? Like, it doesn't happen often around here. It's like
It's like
you
it's like the success of a restaurant
yeah,
percentage to get out.
exactly. Very low percent rate of getting out. So um, that was a big deal, and I'll never forget my mother reminding me. She's like, you should really go and try a city. You need to try that life because you're never going to know what you want or what speaks to you unless you do it. You grew up on a dirt road, like give it a whirl. So, um, yeah, so I got the city experience, and there's there's nothing like leaving home that where you will discover if home is where you're supposed to be because
Yeah.
you have to do that. And for me, that was kind of a moment where I was like, wow, I really do love Maine. Wow, I really do love peace and quiet. And I was fighting it still. I mean, I was still fighting it years after that. But
What else were you exploring as a career, as a life? What other paths did you go down, and why did you keep coming back to what you're amazing
mm,
at, your cooking and your kind of restaurants and
well, wanting to run as far opposite from the restaurant life as I possibly could, I threw myself into school, and I was like, I'm gonna go to medical school. I'm gonna be a doctor, and I'm gonna live in a city, get the heck out of freedom. And that was my big plan. But my big plan didn't factor in that I became unexpectedly pregnant while I was in college. And all of a sudden, all of those dreams and hopes and those goals became extremely distant.
Mhm.
And instead, I found myself moving back to freedom, moving back into my childhood house and figuring out how to pick up the pieces and became a single mom, college dropout, and the only opportunity for me was to go back to work at my dad's diner. And so I started to resent the place even more because now all my dreams have been smashed, all my hopes are out the window, and I'm living back home in this tiny rural town, but even harder now because I'm a single mom and I'm working at my dad's diner. Um, and that was a real challenging time of how do you keep moving forward and keep finding hope and keep searching for your own dreams. um, and that's when I really started to throw myself into food, basically because I had nowhere else to go.
Mhm.
um, but
Have you found peace now
yeah.
with your decisions and where the your life
Oh
has
yeah.
taken you and what you
I
made of it,
mean,
which is amazing?
life is a funny thing in that it where it takes you, and sometimes how we get upset because we think like we were supposed to have one thing and we were trying for another thing, and then you end up down the side road that you weren't seeking out. And but now as I can look back at my life and I can see all of those side roads that I was being thrown onto, like they were actually leading me to my main route.
Right where you
And that
needed to
was
be.
right where I needed to be. And instead of, I look back, and if people have asked me like, well, would you have any regrets? Would you do anything different? And even all of the stuff that took me down to my knees, I would say like, no, it had to happen. Like
Mhm.
I wouldn't be right here if I didn't go through all of those things. And so there really isn't anything that I would change, um, because I was able to go through those painful things and find my own peace and discover happiness and joy in something that I had resented for a while.
Mm. What a great story. Very inspirational too. Being open to where life takes you, and again, to not to overkill the theme of roads,
Right.
and
A
going
lot of
down paths.
potholes
A
on those
lot of
roads.
potholes. Okay, before we take a break here, Erin, let's talk about what you love about what you chose for your life. What do you love about this business? What do you love about what you do, cooking and creating an environment?
There are so many things. I mean, for me, I love the space that it provides for me to like be creative and but also that I have this opportunity to, and I didn't know that this would happen. I'm only discovering this of 10 years of being here, that I have this opportunity to give people something that is so powerful, and that is giving people memories, like real memories of just time spent well together, which, in this day and age, we don't have a lot of time spent well. It's busy and it's rushed, and that I get the opportunity to spend 5 hours with people on a Friday night and give them a meal that they'll never forget and they'll talk about for years with people that they care about deeply, seated around that table. It's
Beautiful.
like it's a rarity these days, and it's something
Yeah.
that I feel really fortunate. Like I get to do that for a living.
Yeah. You, you create memories, and I love that. I mean, you're right. We don't have enough. As I get older, I like, I wish I would have paid more attention to Christmas or Thanksgiving or with the family
Right?
or at that table, with your friends that you gather around on a Friday night in a
Yeah.
restaurant. It's so special. Those are really, to me, the best things in life. And
They're moments, and we only have so many of them,
moments,
and
yeah.
they move quickly and they're fleeting. And if we don't take that second to sort of just seize on that moment, before we know it, everything will have
Be
passed.
lost.
Yeah, be lost.
I'm gonna beat these themes to death. Okay, let's take a real quick break. The Lost Kitchen Shop. It's a holiday season, and speaking of traditions and family, taking care of those you love, bring a little of the Lost Kitchen Shop into your home. Or for somebody that you love, holiday shopping, the holiday market is open November 29th through December 28th. It's only open Friday and Saturday if you're in Freedom, Maine, 11 to 4. But you can get it wherever you're listening right now in the world. Go to findthelostkitchen.com and you can shop on the website there. I went down the rabbit hole. I spent about 2 hours there. I picked out all these things I like. If you'd like to buy me a gift from the Lost Kitchen, I'll let you know what I like. You can shop the table. You can shop books. You can shop accessories, books and stationery and well-being at the Lost Kitchen. So find thelostkitchen.com and go to the shop and do what I did, because Erin is an amazing, as you can tell, amazing speaker, but she has a way with words, and she puts out a newsletter, and you want to subscribe and or sign up because they have a lot of skillets in the fire at the Lost Kitchen. Subscribe to Erin's letters to stay connected at findthelostkitchen.com. We will be right back with more Erin French. Don't go anywhere.